Thank you so much for joining this webinar on Google Analytics Premium for better data-driven decisions. I welcome all of you who have joined from different time zone. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. In our today's conversation, we're going to have yours truly. I'm a founder and CEO at Tatwig. We are a web analytics consulting firm. And if you want to know more about us or get some resources of past webinars, you can go to www.tatwig.com. And today's guest is Swapnil Sinha, and he is a head of conversion at Google India. Swapnil works out of Google office in Gurgaon, and he is expert on Google Analytics Premium and Google Analytics. He travels and teaches across the large gamut of organization within India and solves problems related to Google Analytics for a variety of organization. Swapnil is a very well-known figure. He has spoken on a variety of conferences on Google Analytics, and if you just look up for him, you would know more about his skills and abilities as well. So without wasting any more of time that he has made available for the audience, I will just pass it on to Swapnil. Swapnil, are you there?
Yes, Ravi. Thanks.
Okay, fantastic. I would just pass on the baton to you to present the content further.
Perfect.
All right, there you go.
All right. So thanks, Ravi, and hello everyone. I can see that there are people joining from different locations, not just in India but overseas as well. So whichever time zone you are in, I'll just say hello. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about the 4 key areas really. One, I'm going to just give you an overview of what GA Premium is, in terms of, people know Google Analytics, so, what is Premium all about, what all it can do, and basically from a feature standpoint as to, what it can do, there are 3 key areas which I've kind of subdivided this into. One is, around accumulation in terms of what kind of data it can accumulate, what kind of analysis it can do, and then, in terms of how can it be used for acting. And so there are some case studies to support that as well, so I'm going to go over those as well. All right, so let's jump right into the first section, which is around the overview. So, Google Analytics, the enterprise solution that we came out with in 2011 is actually one of the fastest growing enterprise platforms. And, as of now, as it stands today, almost 67% of all the Fortune 500 websites in the US are using Google Analytics. So, just in terms of the scale, it's pretty massive and it's just growing very rapidly, not just in US, but in all markets across the world. And, just one more data point to kind of support and give you guys an idea of how big it is. So in last 5 seconds, as I was completing my last sentence, we literally had more than 10 million new hits into our system. 5 million additional events were recorded. 10,000 more queries, which means 10,000 queries for reports happened in the last 5 seconds, and 5 gigabytes of data within 5 seconds. So just kind of give you guys a context and an idea of the scale at which Google Analytics Premium and Google Analytics in general operates. And when you think of Google Analytics, just one thing to be aware of that, thinking of it holistically is important because, the fact is that we are talking about a Google marketing platform, not just Google Analytics, and essentially, can be broken down into 3 areas, whether it's, like I said, accumulate, analyze, and action. And really, the key point is that, the whole marketing platform is not just about analytics, but it's also about, the actionability on the data, which is where, the stack that we have, and Google AdWords, etc., they all come in handy. So essentially, the way to look at the marketing platform is, you accumulate data, you analyze it, and then you act on it. And there are tools, to support the actionability as well. Yeah, and the key point is that Google Analytics literally sits at the center of all the various things, whether it's the double-click stack, AdWords on one end, or your own data on the other end, which is around whether it's your the CRM data, the call center data, your point of sale data, and not just that, but also third-party data. So it's like a one single cloud platform which is kind of housing data from different sources, whatever those may be, and trying to generate insights for you guys. The other key difference when we talk about Google Analytics Premium over the Google Analytics free version is really in terms of how you guys, there is a much when somebody comes on board on GA Premium, there is a much tighter contract, because we have contracts specific to each market, etc. In terms of SLAs, are much more tighter. In terms of guarantees in reporting, freshness of data, so these things are definitely much above what a typical client would get on a GA free. So there's the two are poles apart, literally, if I have to say that. Because I know a lot of people start using Google Analytics, a free version, but one important thing to note is that this is an enterprise. When we talk about premium, we're talking about an enterprise offering, and hence all the experiences that you get on free are, or even though they are good, the experiences on premium are much superior. Yeah, and in terms of you get dedicated account management, etc., etc. So anything that you typically would think of for an enterprise analytics platform, all those are available. In terms of ongoing technical support, strategy and implementation, training. So yeah, I mean, it's a holistic package, wholesome package of driving analytics, giving support, and ensuring the best best is derived out of the tool. So, now switching gears a little bit. So, when we talk about accumulate, just few statistics and few important data points to understand and look at and ponder over a little bit, really. So when you talk about accumulate, 82% of the marketers, and this was based on a survey that was done by Teradata, that, while the ideal state is that you have a customer, 82% of them, actually 82% of the marketers really fail to achieve that, right? So, so while there is a lot of appetite for a single view, it's just not happening with the existing set, at least as of late 2013. From an analyzed standpoint, it's important. 75% of the organization actually believe that integrated platforms could meet all their needs. So definitely people do feel that there is a need for integration, and the third bit, which is on the ACT side, you can see that 60% of the marketers struggle with real-time personalization. So while with a lot of cases there is enough data, the actionability is missing. So clearly, looking at these three, you realize that people are, organizations are asking for more and more sophistication. And that's why what I've done is I've actually split up my presentation into these three areas and try to address each of these. So yeah, I mean, basically from an accumulate standpoint, really the key point is that it's very important to get fresh data, accurate, and make sure that there's only one source of truth. Oftentimes in organizations you find that there are a lot of different systems which are there, and it's very hard to reconcile all those systems. So really, intent is to make GA Premium the single source of truth when it comes to generating marketing insights. And yeah, I mean, from an analyze standpoint, it's important to know what metrics to measure, and that's where we're doing a lot of work, and the product actually reflects that in terms of the kind of metrics that are available. And from an ACT standpoint, it's about, can we make data-driven decisions? And, some of it can be enabled through programmatic marketing, which is enabled, like I said earlier, through double-click stack, the double-click products that we have. Yeah, so it's just getting into accumulation phase, right? So, so people, feel that 12% of the revenue, is lost on an average by a company just because there is bad data. So they can't identify the opportunities purely because the data is bad. And so that's where accumulation of data and ensuring quality is very important. And so there, just kind of giving you guys some idea of what all GA Premium can do, right? So and how it is how it is superior to the GA free version. So in terms of dimensions, right? So you're talking about at least 40 times more variables, available. So in the GA Premium version, the standard version. So lots of data can be generated using GA Premium, which can then of course be put to good use as well from an actionability standpoint. The other thing is the freshness of data. So while GA free has up to 48 hours of lag in terms of when the data shows up from the time when it actually got captured, with GA Premium the SL is 4 hours, up to 4 hours. However, it doesn't even take 4 hours. So the key point is that there is a lot more fresher information, fresher knowledge, data that is available, which can really be used in making more real-time kind of adjustments, if I may call them, or improvisations to your marketing, to your product, or whatever else it might be. The third bit is in terms of data limits, and this is something which I'm sure a lot of advertisers who and our partners who have grown into a certain size and are getting a lot of traffic realize that with GA free you get sampling of data, right? So which means some of the reports are based not on 100% of the data but on a lesser subset of data, which however good it might be, sometimes it starts to compromise on the quality and of the insights as well. So the key point is that with GA Premium there is a lot more data, right? So for example, with GA free you can get up to 10 million hits, and beyond that it starts to sample. With GA Premium that number stands at 1 billion. So clearly a massive difference in terms of how much data it can process. Then the last bit really is around data export. So in terms of how much can you extract? So one is using GA, the GA interface to analyze reports. The other is extracting that data into external sources. Now through bigquery in GA Premium you can really extract as much data as you like. Yeah, so that's a big advantage over the GA standard or the free version. So those are so just some aspects which are highlighted. There is a lot more, of course, in terms of what additional features GA Premium can offer. But these are some of the snapshot of key ones under the the accumulate phase.
Hey, Swapnil, this is Ravi. Sorry to interrupt you.
Sure.
But I just want to check if you may want to expand upon the freshness and the custom dimension data with an example. Maybe what I learned in which I'm fairly comfortable in believing is that when we have a 4 hours of freshness, does it mean that if a visitor comes to a website now, they will all the data about that visitor will be available, let's say before 7:30 p.m. today itself?
That's right. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, so absolutely. The point is that when we talk about freshness of data, we are talking about that when actually somebody shows up on your website or on the M site or on the app, and GA collects that data to the time when GA shows that data in a report. So the point is that gap in time is with GA free was 48 hours, and that is down to 4 hours maximum. Which is very good because it actually makes it more actionable, and especially in cases where you start to see seasonality or cases of people really experiencing certain surge in traffic or certain surge in, let's say, particular product inquiries. You can see that instantly in GA Premium. So yeah, I mean, just definitely one of those things which is important for a marketer for sure.
Sure. Okay, that's helpful.
Perfect. Thanks. All right. So just moving on here. So on the DoubleClick side, like I was saying, there is a lot more that you can get with GA Premium in terms of GA Premium can not just be used as a, like I said, accumulation and insight generation tool, but also from a marketing standpoint, it's an important feature of GA Premium. So you can literally reach out to the people who have visited your website and have not converted. You can do that by identifying them in GA, and then running campaigns for those cookies or those people through the double-click stack, right? So DVM, for example, you could run display ads for people who came to your website, looked at a certain product, but did not convert. So if I want to go after those people with custom messages for that particular product, I can do that using DVM. In terms of, the other thing it does is double-click, the campaign manager, which is again the display ad management platform. There, again, you get a lot of insights in GA Premium, a separate section literally dedicated on double-click campaign manager, where you get a lot of really rich reports. So these are some of the things which are available on GA, the free version, but available on GA Premium. All right. The other key thing to understand is that GA in general, Google Analytics in general, and there are some specific things that GA Premium can do. But the key point is that there is a lot of data that Google has, right? So there's data on Google Play, for example, that is integrated in the back end with Google Analytics, right? Which brings in a lot of insights around what kind of apps, etc. The other key piece of data which you get in Google Analytics is demographic data, right? So how many people, and this is based on inferred demographics. It's essentially not the real data of personally identifiable data of a user, but inferred data of in terms of demographics, which is very, very accurate. And that is based on how people are viewing different websites, which websites are they going to, what kind of content are they consuming. Basis that we derive that information, and then that is available through Google Analytics interface. Very, very actionable from a marketing standpoint, because you can see what portion of your website visitation is, for example, male or female, which age category, and not just that, you can even look at what kind of websites do they visit, whether they are music lovers or sports fans, etc. And then you can get very detailed on this in terms of understanding which category of users amongst these are actually doing well on your website, and then you can probably go after those categories. The third bit is around benchmarking. So Google Analytics Premium also allows you to, it actually surfaces in front of you a lot of benchmarking data around, so all the websites which actually are in the same category as you, what do they see in terms of how much traffic they are getting as direct, for example, right? So, and how much traffic are they getting from SEO? So I can get that through this benchmarking. It's a huge, huge step, because a lot of times I get this question from used to get it from the past from advertisers and our clients is that while I know I'm getting 50% of my traffic is direct, but what does the industry look like? Is it similar for the industry? Am I doing better from the industry or worse off, etc.? So those things can be addressed by the benchmarking data that Google Analytics can offer. Yeah, and then like I said earlier, virtue by the fact that we own Google Analytics, so there is of course the their integration which happens with Google Play. There is an integration that happens with AdWords, and what happens is in the back end, a lot of data seamlessly flows from AdWords interface into GA, into Google Analytics, and what that allows is a lot of deep insights around all the campaigns that you may be running on AdWords. So all that is available in like I said, in Google Analytics. The couple of key points, one is cross-device. So what Google Analytics also enables is really cross-device tracking. So users nowadays are of course coming through the mobile, coming through the tablet, coming through the desktop or the laptop as well. Now as a guy switches across these devices, can I track him as a user across these different devices and surface some relevant information for me. For example, is mobile an acquisition channel for me most frequently, which means am I getting a lot of new users on mobile who then subsequently come from using their desktop sites and then convert. These are the kind of insights that are very important for me, because then I can figure out where I want to invest money. If I'm aggressively in an acquisition mode, then I should accordingly figure out basis, where am I getting all my acquisitions from. So that kind of thing can be tracked using cross-device measurement in Google Analytics through a feature called Universal Analytics. Very, very relevant. It gives you, a set of reports around the whole path a user is taking from, moving from one device to the other. So yeah, again, just something to be aware of, and something that, people should really, given, in today's world with all the switching of devices that happens, it becomes very important to have some insights around this. Yeah, and then, moving on, there is a lot of rich data that you can see in GA Premium through, through Universal Analytics, which is around, really deep insights on different product categories, which product categories are doing well for you, which product categories are not doing well for you, literally generating funnels on each step of your conversion process are different, right? So you can, for example, have a funnel for a product category A, saying, how many people actually viewed, products from product category A, how many added it to cart, how many proceeded to checkout, and how many actually completed the transaction. So the entire path can be, the entire funnel analysis can be done for different sources, different segments. In this example right here, for example, you can see the same analysis is being done for different devices. You can replace this, the dimension in this report from device category to, let's say, being source, right, source of traffic, or for something else as well, like I said, the product category. And so then what you get is, all these conversion insights on different products, different campaigns, different sources, different devices, different geographies, and it becomes very valuable because, that's what a marketer needs. Marketer literally needs more cuts of data to really refine the marketing spends, and this becomes very valuable there. Yeah, and then, I think
very interesting. I just wanted to
sure.
Sorry, I just wanted to interject here and check with you. It would be an interesting use case, and I would invite audience's opinion on that via chat as well. But is it also possible to have these segments in terms of different affiliates or different campaigns, display campaign that a marketer may run, and they can know the entire funnel based on those affiliates as well, so that they can identify that which affiliates are performing well and not, and others not performing so well.
Absolutely, yeah. Which is a key point, like I said. Yeah, which campaigns, which sources are doing well for you and which are not. Absolutely, that's definitely one of the key aspects of these reportings.
Fantastic. Thank you for clarifying that.
All right. So and like I said earlier, Google, given now we are also living in an apps world, more and more people are are actually interacting with brands using apps. It becomes very important to get that data into GA as well. So we have a Google Analytics for apps as an offering, and it has got very strong data points that you get, whether it's around the reporting on the ad mob, which is our advertising inventory, the ad inventory, or whether it's about the Google Play data getting integrated with GA, which I spoke about earlier, or it's about within the app, how are what are people doing, how many people are proceeding to buy, what are they buying together, all those kinds of things. And not just buying, I mean you don't have to be an e-commerce site. If you're a gaming site, there's so many insights to be derived there in terms of what kind of actions are happening within a particular a game or whatever that might be. So yeah, I mean there is so much you can do with it from an app standpoint as well. I think the key point is that the integration that we have with, like I said earlier, with Google Play, with AdMob, makes the data very rich, and the fact that we own Google Play. So, and by virtue of that, what happens is that that things like, the source of app install, if you're running an app install campaign, where am I getting my installs from, which source is doing better for me versus another source. All those kinds of things can be easily seen in GA by virtue of the integration in the backend with the Google Play data. Yeah, so and just kind of round it off here, like I was saying earlier, the double-click reporting is also another key piece, right? So like I was saying, there is a dedicated set of reports available in GA Premium, which are only visible in GA Premium, which gives you insights on, how are my double-click campaigns doing, and then and not just click-throughs, really, on view-throughs as well. That's the beauty of it. You can also see, how many campaigns where people actually, if it's a video campaign that you're running, how many people actually saw the video and then later converted without clicking anywhere. So you can get those insights as well. Yeah, so let's just move on to analyzing data, right? So, 56% of the companies rated that data analytics is very important for their strategy this year. However, a lot of them are not able to achieve a lot of, the analysis themselves because, like I said, partially the problem is because is in the accumulate phase itself. So they can't accumulate that data to even do the analysis. But yeah, coming on to the analysis itself, we can offer is calculated metrics, right? So there are these metrics which are out of the box, which are available for everybody to, kind of just use by running a simple report. And then there are these calculated metrics which are, kind of derived metrics on top of the standard metrics which are available. Like for example, things like margin, right? So margin is really, what's my revenue, what's my selling price minus my the cost price or whatever is my margin, right? And so I can derive a metric in GA and then do all my evaluation of campaigns and traffic sources basis, let's say, margin as a metric rather than sales, how many SKUs got sold. Rather than that, I can probably look at margin. So there are different, so there are these, metrics which are available, and you can customize those metrics, like I said earlier, create your own metrics, and then use them in your interface. Very powerful because this kind of, adds a layer of customizability. I, as a business, care for metrics A, B, and C. If you're a media site, you care for probably things like, how much time are people spending on my site, how many pages are they viewing. You can probably do some ratios as well. So then you can start building those metrics. Some of them would be available out of the box, and some you can derive and build for yourself just by simply going to the GA admin interface and deriving creating the formula for that. Yeah, and then also you can get into custom funnels, like I was saying earlier. You can, start to look at, the different steps to conversion funnel. You can create ad hoc analysis on those as well. So, it's just some customization which is available within, like I said, within the GA interface.
Hey, Swapnil, I wanted to go back and talk about this custom funnel a little bit more. What you're trying to communicate, and I do understand this, but I still wanted to make sure that I sort of emphasis on this,
Sure.
is that with the custom funnels, we are now able to generate any and every customer journeys that we can imagine. For example, a customer moved from page A to page B to page C. In the free version of Google Analytics, what we have to do is to create a goal funnel. So we can only know that user moved from A to B to C, but we do not know that user moved from A to B to D to F to G. So we can do this, all customization is what you're saying, based on custom funnels, right?
Absolutely. So it's basically, thanks for pointing that out. So yeah, that's a good point. So essentially it's about, creating these custom paths and analyzing that, how many people are following a certain path in terms of going from step 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 versus people going from step 1 to 3 to 5, whatever. Yeah, so it brings a lot of customization into the analysis itself, rather than looking at just the standard reports which are available.
Excellent.
I think this is very
Excellent.
valuable for, I think specifically, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think, the example that I was quoting on media, if you're a big media publisher, this becomes very important for you, because you also start to understand, what kind of stories people consume together, and then what's the sequence of those. So yeah, I mean, that's definitely very valuable.
Fantastic.
Okay. All right, so let's move on. Like I said, unsampled data is a big one, right? So when we talk about, why move to GA Premium, why not stick to GA Standard, why to pay? And I think one of the key points really is that if at some point you start to see a lot of sampling happening in your data, then there's something which you should definitely look at, because you can't be basing your decisions on important critical decisions around where do you want to spend money just basis sample data. So that's where GA Premium comes in handy. It also of course has things like in-memory analytics, which essentially means that a lot of the data actually, when you fetch a report, sits in the local memory of the computer, and so then the retrieval of those reports again becomes faster, and that's a key point, right? So while we're talking about unsampling, it's also a lot faster to some of the reports are a lot faster to be executed, just because it uses in-memory analytics. The couple of other things, right? So especially when we talk about customer metrics, one is of course the customer acquisition, the other is the retention piece, right? So what Google Analytics also offers is a lot of insightful reports on the retention piece of it, lifetime value, cohort, right? So so there is a lot of focus in this area for us, and given that we are talking about apps right now, in the app context, it becomes very important for us to look at the lifetime value, which means essentially how much would you like to spend on acquiring a user on an app, and the measure of that should ideally be a function of lifetime value. So if on an average a user is spending whatever 100 rupees with you, then how much are you willing to acquire that person or that user? So that is available in Google Analytics Premium as well. And right now there are lots of metrics around per user metrics as well, which are available, and it's available for mobile apps as well. So which is a larger case in point actually. So so yeah, I think something that everybody should look at. The other thing is the cohort, right? So from a cohort standpoint, sometimes I've seen companies run these really high intensity campaigns, and then they want to understand what did that generate for them. So there things like cohort become very important, because it tells you that those people that you acquired and in a certain period, how did they do over a period of time in terms of engagement, in terms of conversions, and transactions, whatever that might be. So that is something which is an important insight that I think, and especially for people who are kind of in the acquisition mode, and you keep coming out with new campaigns every day, it becomes very important for you to understand the efficacy of each campaign, and therein cohort becomes very important.
So Swapnil, just a quick question on this one is, as I see this report, I see that on October 13th we got 42,000 users, and October 14 we got 37,000, and so on and so forth at different dates. What this report is essentially telling us is that if we compare all the dates, the user who we acquired on October 14th, displayed the maximum propensity to come back on the website. Yes, exactly. That's what I'm referring to. Is that a right reading of this report?
That's right. So this is basically looking at how many people actually came back, and the way to look at it is as like you rightly said, that for October 14th you can clearly see that the highest propensity was on day 2, where 26% of those users who we acquired on October 14th actually came back on day 2. So again, a great insight right there. And what is even more interesting is actually if you look at October 17th here in this report, and you realize that people whom we acquired on October 17th were first-time users on October 17th. On day 3, there is a highest propensity, amongst all the days, which is very interesting. So, in terms of, you would typically think that, that of all the 100 people that acquired on day 0, it will start to go down, right? So only, let's say 40% will come on day 1, lesser on day 2, and even lesser on day 3. But there are scenarios here where you can see that actually people are coming back on day 3, and it's higher than what number of people that were there on day 2 and day 1. So this, of course, is a function of what October 17th is, which day of the week is that, and what's the campaign all about, et cetera, et cetera. But just important pieces of information that can be stitched together and to derive into a meaningful marketing insight.
Sure, makes total sense.
Okay, and yeah, so this is what I was talking about from a lifetime value. Like I said earlier, it's kind of telling you how how much revenue in the last 90 days am I getting from all the users that I have. So and so the key point is, what's that lifetime value number for you guys, and for what's the lifetime value number for different segments for your business, because that's important, because that will help you determine what should be the acquisition cost that I should have for for all the campaigns that I'm running. So this is again something which is available in Google Analytics across web, mobile app, all of it. Yeah, and like I was saying earlier, the benchmarking, this is kind of just a snapshot of benchmarking reports, and there you can see clearly, that you can compare yourself with similar websites, and just to kind of give you more idea, this is currently based on country. So you can choose that I want to benchmark myself within my country, or I can choose to benchmark myself with a different country as well. I can choose to benchmark myself with a certain industry, and I can choose to benchmark myself with size as well, in terms of what the size of the websites that we're talking about. So these are the 3 dimensions which are available. But like I said, so you can, for your country, for let's say if you're talking about India, you can say that I choose India as my benchmarking country, and I choose, let's say if I'm a media publishing house, I choose media as my industry, and I choose my size of the website, and then accordingly I get these benchmarks. So again, there are some reference points now available in terms of the key metrics that I want to look at, and then take a call and are we doing well? Do we need to increase our our social spends or the social presence because we are lagging the benchmarks, or do we need to improve on our direct traffic, and whatever that might be. So that's something which is enabled through this. Yeah, and the last bit really is about the impact on the impact, right? So there is the whole data-driven attribution. So Google Analytics Premium has, so the Google Analytics in general has the attribution modeling, which is available with it. And then there are a couple of, there is one specific model, which is a data-driven attribution model, which is available for, for the GA Premium customers. And the way it works is very simple, right? So, so in today's world, like we all know that, people take multiple visits to convert, right? So they might come back to your website 5 times before they finally convert, and they may come from different sources as well. So the first time they might actually discover you through, let's say, a YouTube campaign, or a social campaign, and second time they might be coming from a search campaign, etc., etc. So so the point is there are different touches which are happening. Now with the data-driven attribution, what it does, it gives weightages to the different touch points basis what was the likelihood of that touch point leading to a conversion. So so the key point is, like, for example, if search, like in this slide, if search led to a display and then an email, right, what they found is that in this case that there was a 50% increased likelihood to purchase when display was there between search and email, right? So the first click, the first time the guy came from search, the second time, let's say, the guy came from email. And what they find, looking at all the data points, what the attribution modeling tool, what it determines is, it's a kind of machine learning algorithm, and basically it says that whenever display is in between search and email, the likelihood to purchase goes up by 50%. And so then accordingly it gives a lot of weightage to display. So this kind of gives you an insight and tells you that, hey, display is very important for my business because it also increases the probability of purchase, right? So I can't just ignore it because it's not giving me an instant conversion, but it's also helping on a email to close on the sale by 50% increase in likelihood. So that's the way to look at this. Is a very, very powerful feature which is available in Google Analytics Premium around attribution, and this is specifically available in the premium version, not in the standard version. Okay, and the last bit on from an analysis standpoint is that Google Analytics Premium, given that it's hosted in the cloud, there is a lot of data that gets generated for each account, which can be exported, right? So you can export the data through APIs, and various other means. You can export the data from the BigQuery interface, which is housing the data for your account, into Excel, into Tableau, etc., etc. So all the different platforms, if you want to import it into your own database, you can do that too. For some people also want to import part of that data into their CRM systems, they can do that as well. You can also join this data with other external data, right? So things like the whether it's about if you want to get the CRM data, let's say, or point of sale data into Google Analytics, you can import it as well. And do specific things, and I'll give you I'll actually give you an example. So if you're a retail client, you've got a website, and then you also have a brick and mortar store, and you want to understand how many people who visit your website also end up actually transacting, not on the website, but actually visit the store and transact. So you can then start to think of the point of sale which is happening offline in the store, and the online footprint of the same customer which is happening on the website, of merging the two data sets together to derive some insights. And that can be done using some of these things mentioned here. Yeah, and then you can kind of course layer. You can obviously use the BigQuery directly, and then also even export this data, like I said earlier, into some visualization tool, and kind of and for advanced dashboards, etc. All right. Okay, so the last section. I know we are running 5 minutes late, I think, but I'll try to wrap it up quickly. So from an actionability standpoint, this is very important, and what I thought I will do is I will take you guys through some of the some of the use cases, some of the case studies that are there, and actually, if you like, you can actually get a lot of these case studies on our website as well. If you go to google.com/analytics/customer, you can download a lot of case studies which are there of how different companies have used Google Analytics, premium and free both, to derive some superior business results. So let me take you through a couple of examples here. So this one specifically is, TechSmith, and TechSmith is, an online it's like a software company. They basically develop variety of applications for, just to kind of to narrow the communication gap through images, video, online hosting, whatever else it is. And they figured that they saw that their belief was that display was a very important aspect. Display advertising was an important aspect of their marketing. However, they were not able to articulate it at all. They didn't have any data points to back it up. And what that meant is that they couldn't justify increasing spends, because unless you measure it, you can't really build a case to really scale up or scale down. And so what they did, they actually used the data-driven attribution, which I spoke about just a couple of slides back, and they actually realized that that really, the data-driven attribution revealed that they actually got 7% more conversions from display than what they were reporting. And they what also they realized, so basis this, they then thought that they increase their spends on display further, and that increase 24% increase in spends on display led to 19% increase in display attributed conversion. So clearly it led to a lot more conversions for them. However, if you see here, you can clearly see that display was not the last click channel for them. It was not as if display was leading to instant conversion, but just by looking at data, they realized that display was a very important source of driving conversions through other channels. And clearly this case study proves a point that if you're spending in the right place, you definitely see an increase in conversion. And the remarkable thing with them was that this increase in conversions was still at a very good cost for them.
Hey,
just proves one more point, like I said.
I have a quick question here. So when you say that there was a 19% increase in display attributed conversion, it essentially means that that 19% was actually incorrectly attributed in past, and now it is correctly attributed to display. So in past there was an error in decision making because you were attributing a conversion which was actually happening from display and attributing it to some other sources. Is that a correct understanding?
Yeah, that's right. So so in the past so actually 7%. So the point was that what they found was that there was 7% more conversions from display than what they were thinking they were getting. And as a direct consequence of that, they said, we want to increase our spends we want to ramp up our display spends further.
Nice.
And that increase that they did led to, so that increase was about 24%, and that led to 19% more conversions from display as well. So so the point really is that, and the remarkable point, which is third bullet point here, which tells me that display was, the cost per acquisition was actually below the non-brand paid search. So typically you would think of paid search as something which is very leads to an instant conversion most of the time. But what we found was that display actually did equally well compared to non-brand paid search CPA. So yeah, I mean, just kind of one slide here which points to how you can use the data to derive insights, act on it, and then there is data to back it up that whatever action you took, actually in this case at least, it brought the positive results. Okay, just two more case studies. This one specifically talks about West Wing, and they actually using, I spoke about cross-device tracking and cross-device behavior tracking, and this one specifically covers that they actually they figured that this smartphones and tablets were significantly undervalued, so much so that when they adjusted their marketing, they actually increased their marketing spend, and they found significantly higher conversions, essentially as a direct consequence of that. And you know what they looked at was one of the sample reports is the one on the left here, which is kind of a Venn diagram, which is telling me that there is a significant overlap users. So while there is 6.87% of the users are actually are an overlap between desktop and mobile. And so if so I while I might think that it's only desktop or only mobile, there are people who actually switch between devices, and they figured that there is about 7% more conversions that they were getting from mobile than what they thought. So what they did is they actually increased their spends on mobile, adjusted their marketing spend, and they found a lot of value in that in terms of getting additional conversions even on desktop. So that's the key point. The point is the guy actually, you increase your spend on mobile, but you see an effect of that on your desktop conversions because of the cross-device behavior. And so that was one other use case. The third one really is Avo, and so these guys really are like the legal marketplace. So all the attorneys, the lawyers actually kind of list themselves on this website, and it kind of connects the consumers with the lawyers who are seeking, and the consumers who are seeking legal advice. And what they did is actually, with a lot of sophisticated tracking around events and data import, etc., they wanted to understand that what's my total how much should I be charging for from a lawyer in different markets, right? So what you see here is these guys were actually selling these ads. So a lawyer can list themselves by paying something, right? And so what should that ad price be was something that they were not very clear on. So what they did, they actually did a bunch of experiments and tests, and they with a lot of sophisticated tracking in Google Analytics using events, they actually were able to determine that there are certain products, certain regions which demand a higher ad pricing, and then there are certain other regions and there are certain other product categories which require a lower ad pricing. Why? So there were some reasons which were which actually had a certain type of legal advice more in demand, certain other types of legal advice which are lesser in demand. So then accordingly, based on the demand in different markets and different types of legal advices, they actually altered their pricing, and that led to significantly more revenue for them. Just one more use case of how you can literally use even the tracking in Google Analytics to drive a lot of superior, like I said, business results. Yeah. So and the last piece I just want to leave you with is from an actionability standpoint is remarketing. Like I said earlier, the one of the key differentiations of Google Analytics Premium is that it actually allows you to remarket and integrate, so retarget users who visited your website, and then tie it up with all the Google products, right? So whether you talk about the Google inventory through AdWords, whether you talk about through DoubleClick Bid Manager, the display inventory, you can really go after those users through these platforms. And again, one of the key things that we have seen is that through remarketing, your conversion rates go up significantly, because you are there when the customer is, even when the customer is not there on your website, he still knows that he has looked at this product on this website because he is getting exposed to an ad through remarketing. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. The key use case here is that we've actually now starting to see people using it for CRM as well. So I can identify my users. I can create a segment of users in GA, map it to map it to the CRM attributes, right? So whether it's the demographics or whatever else, and then go after those specific users. So somebody who has bought a product A, came from a certain city, and to us looks like a high value customer, I can go and remarket to that guy. So that's what the platform enables. Google Analytics combined with DoubleClick, AdWords and all put together enables you to do all of this. So yeah, I mean, just one more point of actionability is remarketing, as I was saying. So yeah, with that, yeah, and you know, I had a on this. You know, you can actually read it up on, like I said, the website I mentioned earlier, the google.com/analytics/customers. But yeah, this is just one case study of Watchfinder. They were actually able to, you know, increase their average order value by 13%, and you know, reduce their CPAs, like I said earlier, reduce their cost per acquisition by 34% on non-brand search campaigns, just by, you know, doing analysis on the funnel stage. So, you know, they actually created a segment of users on which stage of the funnel were they at, which geography they were coming from, what brand of watches were they looking at, and what was their on-site behavior, how engaged were they. Basis all this, they actually created segments in Google Analytics and then remarketed to them. And that's where, you know, they saw a significant increase in ROI. So yeah, you know, and there of course are, you know, there is one machine learning algorithm that works as well. So rather than you having to create your own segments, what Google Analytics Premium allows you to do is to create a list, which is, let Google Analytics create a list for you. And Google Analytics actually is pretty smart at that. So you know, most of the time it figures out which is the list which has the highest potential of a conversion, or which is the user which has the highest potential of conversion, and then it will run the campaign for those as well, through, you know, enabled through DoubleClick and AdWords. So yeah, I mean, if you don't want to take the hassle of manually creating lists, then you can simply you know, have just choose this particular remarketing type and run with it. It's a very powerful tool. We have seen this work wonders for a lot of our clients. Yeah, sorry, I know we are running a little over, but you know, with that, I wanted to open it up for questions. Ravi, you want to take it up from here?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much. It was a fantastic conversation, and the details on accumulate and take eventual actions on the data. So there are a lot of questions that people have asked, and I'm afraid that since we are short of time, we may not be able to answer all the questions. But I would pick just two questions for you, Swapnil, and then eventually we will send out you know, emails for all the other questions as in the form of an answers. So one quick question a gentleman called Ankur had was, in GA Premium, is it available for you know, can we have a single account for all subdomains, app, multiple mobile apps of the same business, and multiple websites, and can it be? Oh, okay. Okay, I'll try again. So the question is, for in GA Premium, in GA Premium, can we combine all the you know, subdomains, all the different mobile apps, and all the different mobile website, and see the data as a one single view? Is it possible, or can that data be exported as a combined view or not, is what the question is.
Yeah, so there's a concept of roll-up reporting which is available. Having said that, you know, I think it's the point clearly is that, you know, let's take a step back actually and understand that, you know, when we talk about each subdomain, yes, it's possible. But the moment we introduce app into it, we are talking about two different things here, because with you know, with the web and the M site, we are talking about a cookie as a tracking mechanism. With the app, it's not a cookie anymore. So so it becomes harder to kind of, you know, kind of combine that data and roll it up, because you might find duplicates, meaning the same guy might actually show up on the app as well as on the site. And so while I know a lot of people want to still at least look at a roll-up number overall, so yes, that is possible, but few things to be aware of. One is the you know, the how much can we deduplicate, and if so, how much? across the different sites. So duplicate the users, and then yes, you can, from an export standpoint, I'm not quite sure exactly what data are we trying to export, or what the question implies in terms of data to be exported, but the key point is that Google Analytics has the feature to export data, so any report that you're running can be exported. So yeah, I mean, that kind of hard. I mean, if you have anything else to add on this, feel free. But to me, I think like I said, yes, the roll-up is possible, where you aggregate data from different subdomains and also your different properties. But like I said, I think the best way to do that is actually through cross-device reporting, which I mentioned earlier. So at least for the people that you've identified on your website, on your M site, and on the app, for those people who we have identified, at least we get a sense of how many those are, and how are they moving across the devices.
Absolutely. Absolutely, that makes perfect sense. I think it's about how do you roll up. So another question that a couple of people had, and I'm sort of combining this question, but what are the charges of GA Premium? And I can take I can take this question, but the question is, what does hit mean in one of your slide? Is it a page view, or is it something else? And I'll try to answer it, Swapnil, if you let me do it.
Sure, please go ahead.
Sure. So essentially, a hit is a server call that is sent to Google Analytics using different APIs of Google Analytics JavaScript. So you can send the data from mobile app with the use of SDK. You can send data to Google Analytics via normal page load in a form of a page view, or you can send the data in a form of events as well. So essentially, in general, your total number of hits in Google Analytics is equal to your total page views and your total events added together. So if you know your total page views and your total events, sum it up and you would know your total hits eventually. So with that answer, there are a lot of other questions, and I'm thankful for all the listeners and active participation from the audience, and I'm really glad that this webinar turns out to be much more interactive than we originally thought. So thank you once again, gentlemen. Thank you so much, Swapnil, for your extremely valuable time. Totally appreciate you being here and explaining all the nitty-gritties of Google Analytics Premium. Just in case, if you can provide a feedback on the next slide once I end up this webinar, that will be really helpful for us in the future webinar. And with that comment, I would just call it off. Thank you once again for everyone joining here. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.